Hello, welcome to COM111, Fundamentals of Public Speaking. My name is Brian Hunt, and I'll be your instructor this quarter. In this video, I'm going to talk about how the course is set up and what you can expect to get out of this class. So as I mentioned, it's an introductory Fundamentals of Public Speaking. It's an introductory course. This class is going to give you the opportunity to really practice a variety of speeches. We're going to go over impromptu speeches, informative speeches, persuasive speeches, and you're going to learn everything along the way of building a presentation. And that's everything from effective preparation and practice to speech organization, using visual aids, and then, of course, some delivery techniques. A little bit about my background. So I've taught this course for probably about 2 decades now. I've taught at a variety of colleges, everything from trade schools, community colleges, four-year universities. So lots of experience teaching this course. I also teach some other courses in communication, such as interpersonal communication, intercultural communication, persuasion, and small group. I'm also an attorney in private practice. And the reason that I bring that up is you are going to notice as we go through the concepts in this course, I will oftentimes use examples from a variety of fields, but including the legal field. So you'll see me sometimes give examples of working with clients or talking to jurors and things like that. So I just kind of wanted to give you a heads up of where some of those examples might be coming from as you see them in the future. But again, as an introductory course, one of the first things that I want to say is oftentimes people, they either hesitate taking this class or they're very nervous about taking this course. This is an introductory course. Everybody's going to come into the class with different sort of initial skill levels when it comes to different dynamics of public speaking, but you are not expected, to do well in this class, for example, to get an A or to get a B in this course. It does not mean that you're going to be graded to the level where by the end of the course, everybody has to be a TED Talk presenter, right? And running their own YouTube channel. Okay. You're graded as if it's an introductory course. We're assuming you have no prior experience with public speaking. And this is a chance to kind of lay a foundation for you in the class. So let's talk a little bit about how the class is set up, assignments, how to access the course materials. So a couple of things about this class in particular. So this is a hybrid course, and it's designed for you to be able to do most of the course to digest the material and complete the assignments online. So they will be posted on Blackboard, which I'm going to pull up a little bit later in this video. There are no required meetings for the course this quarter. So I will have Zoom office hours. So normally the time slot that the college has given us for this course is 1:10 to 3 p.m. on Wednesdays. So what I'm going to do is during that time frame from 1 to 2, I will have office hours through Zoom where you can talk to me live. If there's questions that you want to get answered one-on-one in real time, you can do that. But those meetings are not required. You do not have to attend. The class is set up to where you can access all the materials online and go at your own pace. And if you don't have any specific questions you want answered one-on-one, you do not have to attend those meetings. This is posted on Blackboard. You see right here at the top of the syllabus is the link to the Zoom office hours every Wednesday. You just click that link and you enter the password. Other ways to get a hold of me, the easiest way to get a hold of me is either through Messenger on Blackboard or through the college email, which you have right there at the top of the syllabus. And I forgot to mention briefly a little bit again about my background. So I mentioned teaching this course and a variety of other communication classes. In addition to being an attorney, I do have a bachelor's and master's in communication, focusing heavily on persuasion. And one other focusing heavily on persuasion. So coming back now to looking now at some of the course materials, expectations in the class. So textbook, you do not have to buy a textbook for this class. If you look down at the syllabus, required course materials, I have posted the textbook on Blackboard. It is a free open education resource. So you'll be able to link to specific chapters or the whole textbook. I've got them all separated in modules that we'll go over a little bit later. The only other materials that you'll need for the course is access to PowerPoint, Google Slides, something to sort of do your presentation visual aids. Now, if you don't go out and just go buy Microsoft Office to get PowerPoint or something like that, if you go through the college and you contact the student help desk, they can show you how to get Microsoft Office and those apps as a student here for free or at a reduced cost. So make sure that you take advantage of those things. I believe Google Slides is free, so you can certainly use that for your visual aids as well. That's really kind of the only thing you'll need as far as accessing course material. And of course, you'll need to have access to Blackboard and internet connection to be able to link to some of the sample videos and video lectures and things like that. So moving on here to a couple of other basic nuts and bolts about the course, disability accommodations. If you need accommodations, contact Disability Services. They will work with you to figure out what accommodations you need and qualify for. They will then reach out to me, and you can reach out to me as well, and we can set all of that up for you. That's not a problem. Definitely go seek that if you need help with that, because there's a lot of ways that they can help level the playing field with you and other students to help give you the best chance to succeed. And this class, because it's an online class slash hybrid course, one of the advantages I will say is that a lot of this stuff is already kind of accessible for a lot of accommodations. You're getting copies of the PowerPoints, you're getting video lectures, and all that sort of stuff. So hopefully that also helps just in general. A couple of other things about college policies, academic dishonesty, student code of student conduct guidelines. Really, this is just sort of making sure you're aware. Obviously, don't cheat on assignments, don't plagiarize assignments. You really do need to pay it. This is obviously becoming an emergent issue with the use of AI and things like that, and people just sort of Googling things and copying and pasting. Be very careful about that, because if you take a look, I mean, this is a little bit of the lawyer talking, but if you take a look at the student code of conduct and all the things that you sign up for when you register for courses, they will all say that not only can you fail assignment, but sometimes you can be withdrawn from a course, you can get kicked out of a major. If you get caught cheating on something, it can be noted on your student transcripts. So there can be a lot of like downstream consequences to that kind of behavior. So it's really not worth it. Don't do that. There are ways that we do certainly check, and if I get an assignment that I think is sounds like it's not in your own words or suggestive that it might be plagiarized, I certainly do make those checks. So make sure you're aware of that. Don't cheat on assignments. It's not really worth it. Let's go down to the class rules and expectations as far as the assignments go. And in fact, I want to talk about the assignments first, and then we'll come back to that. So what do you have to do in here? Now, at first, this looks like it's more work, I think, than it really is initially. So just kind of bear with me. So there's a speech of introduction, an impromptu speech, speech outlines, an informative speech. There's two of those, a persuasive speech, and then a midterm and a final. Okay. But let's break this down a little bit. So first of all, the speech of introduction and the impromptu speech, these are really short. These are like 2 to 3 minutes. You don't turn in any notes. You don't have to have them memorized. You're not doing visual aids. They're not what we call platform speeches. So what a platform speech is that's a presentation where you have visual aids and you're being graded on delivery, and you might be graded on certain particular dynamics of your content, right? And so there's a lot more balls in the air that you're juggling. Well, for these first two speeches, they're really just meant to be practices. They're meant to give you some experience, first of all, if you've never given a speech before, right? Get you some initial experience before you're dealing with a platform speech. And then, quite frankly, it's also to get you some experience using Blackboard and uploading a presentation, making sure you know how to use the technology to succeed in this course. So those are what I'm basically trying to say is those are small assignments that you really shouldn't freak out about, right? Don't stress out about those two. They're very, very short, very simple, very easy, lighthearted speeches. As far as the three platform speeches, the two informative and the persuasive speech, those are 5 to 6 minute presentations. Grading rubrics will be posted on Blackboard, and I'm going to show you where a little bit later in this video. You turn in a speech outline for each of those. Your outlines will tend to be 2 to 3 pages. So double spaced, okay, and that includes your works cited page. So they might actually just be a works cited page and then 1.5 pages double spaced, for example. So it's not a lot of writing. Okay, so you can see here as I go through this, it actually breaks down to a little less work than I think it initially looks like. 2 exams. So the exams tend to be short answer. They'll sometimes be multiple choice. I will sometimes do those as take home. Sometimes you will actually take them on Blackboard. The exams will be based on the course PowerPoints, video lectures, readings, all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of all encompassing. And then you have participation points. Now, participation points for here, they will sometimes be discussion questions that I post that you could get the points as long as you participate in those and you show sort of a level of critical thought that shows you understand the course concepts. Some of them you're just going to get, quite frankly, for being enrolled in the course, for staying here. And the reason for that is obviously if we were in an on-site class, sometimes participation points are based on in-person attendance, right? Well, you can't really get those points here because we're not meeting in person. But that being said, it's also not necessarily fair to you to lose those essentially pretty easy, pretty simple points, right? And so I didn't want to take them off. So I left them on there for you. So some of those you're just going to get, right? As long as you're registered, as long as you're enrolled, you just get the points. So that's basically how it breaks down. As far as another thing, little side note I would like to mention is, so some speech instructors will have they will have exams and some don't have exams. Why do I have exams? Well, there's two reasons. One is it's a way to test some of the things that you're just not going to be able to incorporate in your speech. Okay. There's certain things we're going to cover with persuasion or delivery that you're just not going to get a chance to cover, that you're not going to get a chance to utilize. And so it's making sure you still understand how to use those and those skill sets and understand those terms and concepts because they still matter, even if you can't use them in your speech. The second reason is this actually helps you. Okay. Now, why does this help you? It helps your grade. So, whenever you take a course, one of the advantages to having more assignments is that the more assignments there are, the more chance, the less likely it is that if you do poorly on a given assignment, that it's going to kill your grade. Okay. So think about it. If I just gave you 4 speeches and they all were worth 25% of your grade, if you bomb one of them, like you're destined to get a C now, right? Cville, population U. That's not what you want, right? You want to be able to maybe struggle on an assignment but still pull your grade back up. So when you have more assignments and they're worth less points, less total percentage, it actually still allows you to balance your grade if you struggle on something. Or for example, if you struggle on one of the midterms, now if you do well in the speeches, that can pull you up and vice versa. So it actually tends to help the grades settle in pretty well here. So as far as like making it less likely you get a bad grade. So really what it is 2 very simple speeches that you don't have to do a lot of preparation for at all. The 3 main speeches that are 5 to 6 minutes that you do a 2 to 3 page outline for, and then the exams, if you really think about it, and maybe some discussion questions or participation points that way. So those are the assignments. All right, so let's go back and look over some of the class rules. A couple of things I just want to highlight on this. So assignments are due on Blackboard by midnight on the due date, okay? Due dates are listed in bold in the class schedule, which I'm going to pull up in a second, and they're also on the course calendar in Blackboard, okay? So I will also send out weekly reminders. So every Sunday night or Monday, I will send an email, post an announcement where I say, hey guys, here's the new materials that are up, or here's the materials you're supposed to be going through this week. And here's a reminder, we got an assignment coming, right? Late work is accepted, but you lose 10% a day. So now look, if you're 5 days late, you're going to lose 50%. Should you still do the assignment? Yes, you should, because it's a points game, right? You want to get the most points possible. So it's still worth doing, but you do lose 10% a day unless you have some sort of like medically excused absence as to why excusing you from school or work or something like that, or a conflict with an extracurricular activity where you couldn't be, you were doing something else, right? You're involved in something else. You do have to provide proof of that, though, right? You have to provide some sort of like documentary evidence that this is true, that you really were sick and you couldn't complete the assignment, or you really did have this conflict in terms of your schedule to where you couldn't complete it. And the reason for that is to level the playing field, right? You're competing against each other for grades, and it just simply is not fair if you get extra time on something when somebody else had to get it. They're all juggling their busy schedule too, and somebody else had to get it done before you. Now, the one exception to not accepting late assignments is I don't accept speeches late. Okay, um, you do have to turn those in on time. Okay, uh, same thing, barring again a medically excused absence. That's the only way, or you have again an extracurricular activity conflict, something like that. Otherwise, you got to do the speeches on time. Okay. Now, why not? And again, you got to prove it. There's got to be documentary proof. Now, why the exception for speeches? Why not just accept late speeches too? Well, here's the problem. People are nervous taking this class. They're nervous doing the speeches. And if I accept late work, what happens is the night before a speech is due, I get an email from 90% of the class claiming every possible catastrophe known to man has happened, right? You're going to claim every illness possible, every tragedy. and I just don't know who's lying or not, right? And I don't want to play detective on that. So again, it's a fairness issue, and it's also a problem of if you accept late speeches, everybody's going to try to do the speech late because they don't want to do the speech, right? Because they're nervous about it. Okay, so I will send reminders about this as well, but just make sure you get the speeches in on time. Now, in this class, you have two options in terms of turning in the speech. You can record it and upload it to Blackboard, or I'm going to set up Zoom office hours on the weeks that we have speeches where you can just log into Zoom. It's just me and you one on one, and you can just do the speech live. If you don't want to mess with recordings, you just do the speech there. And this brings up another topic. If when you're doing your speech, like I'm doing right now, right, where you can see me and you can see my visual aids. Now, in this case, it's the syllabus and all that, but let's just say it was the PowerPoint and I was giving a presentation. That's great. That's beautiful. That's preferable. But here's the problem. Some of you are either not going to be tech savvy enough to show both at the same time, or not have the setup, or don't want to buy a program to do that, or know how to do that, right? So, excuse me, I'm not going to punish you for that, right? Just because you took the class online. Because if we were in person, you wouldn't have to worry about that, right? You just come to campus and you would log in, and right there on the projector, right, would be your speech. So I don't want to punish you for that. So here's the deal. When you submit your recordings, as long as I can just see you, you don't have to show your visual aids. As long as you turn in your visual aids on time, I will grade the speech as if you showed your visual aids during your presentation. If you want, during the speech, you can say, now turning to slide 1, so I know which slide to look at next, but you don't have to show them both. Again, if you know how to do that, you have the tech set up, or you're tech savvy enough to do that, great, do it, but don't worry about it if you don't have to. As long as I can just see you talking, that's what you have to do, and then turn in the visual aids on time. Now, it does have to show you talking. It can't just be a screen record. So a screen record would be like if you were just hearing my voice right now, but you couldn't see me, right? You can't do that. And the reason for that is we have to verify who gave the speech. We have to make sure it's you, okay? And so it can't just be a screen record. What else? Keep in mind. So outlines, you do have to type them. And yes, you can't just do handwritten stuff. And the reason for that is sometimes I just can't read the writing, right? So some people just have bad handwriting. So you do have to make sure that you type those. Again, if you don't have Microsoft Office or Word or something like that, just do you can do obviously Google Docs or something like that, just as long as they're typed. Also, you do need to make sure I can read it. So, if you're using a Mac or you're using a specific program, you need to make sure it can be opened on a PC, right? And so another thing too is if you're saving that it's just a good thing to keep in mind for all of this stuff is if you're saving your visual aids in the cloud or your speech outlines in the cloud, not only do you need to make sure they can be opened, but like it's a readable program, but you need to make sure it's not like access protected. So, for example, let's say um, you submit your visual aids, but you saved it in the cloud. I click on it and it says you do not have permission to access this file. You need to request permission, right? Well, then you're going to lose points. You're probably going to get 0 because that's a part of the speech. I don't accept speeches late. Well, actually, the visual aids, that would be okay. But so maybe the better example, this would be it's somehow your video and you save the video in the cloud or something like that. But anyway, um, if I can't access the video, you're going to get a 0 because you might have changed it in between the time I asked for access, right? Or maybe you didn't even have it really uploaded. Or if it's, let's say it's your speech outline, which I do accept late, or your visual aids, but the 10% deduction. If I have to request access and wait 3 days for you to grant me access, you're going to lose points potentially because you might have changed it or edited it in the meantime. So, and what I'm going with this is you need to make sure you understand how to use the technology you're using. There is a difference between uploading an attachment and saving something in the cloud. When you upload an attachment, which is what you should be doing for all your classes, by the way, this is just good advice. This is a little, listen to me. This will help you in your courses. Anytime you turn something in on Blackboard for any of your courses, you know what you should be doing? You should be uploading an attachment. So have it saved locally on your device and upload the actual thing. It's not required. You can do what you want to do, but I highly encourage you not to just be saving things in the cloud and sending those links because you're going to have situations where it's going to say you need permission and your instructors are just going to give you zeros because they're going to say, hey, man, I couldn't access it, right? So just save yourself the headache upload the actual attachment, man. So just a little side rant on that. Incompletes. This happens every quarter. People disappear and then they come back and they say, "How do I pass?" Right? Well, or can I get an incomplete? An incomplete lets you complete the class maybe a week or two after it ended, or however long of an extension you qualify for. Here's the problem with that. A couple of things. So first of all, it might just be out of my hands. You're not eligible for an incomplete at Mount Hood unless you can show at the time you requested it that you had already completed 80% of the coursework. So if you've been gone all quarter and not doing anything, and it's already been 10 days past some assignments due, so you've lost the 10% every day, so now you're going to get a 0, right? Then you just don't even qualify anymore. So you still have to have done most of the coursework. So keep that in mind, okay? And even then, you have to submit paperwork for it. You got to show the reason why do you want the incomplete, right? And it has to get approved by the instructor and potentially by the college. So this could be an option, but just keep in mind you have to do 80% of the coursework, okay, to qualify for that. Another thing too I would keep in mind is this happens every quarter too, where people sign up for the class or a given course and they come the first 2 or 3 weeks and then you just disappear and I never see you again, and you don't withdraw. Make sure you withdraw from the class. Here's why. A W is better in your transcript than an F. Okay? Withdrawals happen. You can explain those. People go to college, they have withdrawals. When I was in college, I had withdrawals. I still was able to transfer and get into grad school and do all the things, right, that I wanted to do. It happens. You can explain it. Life happens. But here's why you don't want Fs. Fs affect your GPA, withdrawals don't. So let's say you take 2 classes, you get an A and you have a withdrawal. Your GPA is a 4.0. Let's say you take 2 classes, you have an A and you have an F. Your GPA is a 2.0. Big difference, right? Here's the other problem, because the F is a 0, right? Let's say you get an F and you retake the course. You get an A. Guess what? It doesn't erase the F in terms of your GPA. It still counts on your GPA. So it may replace it in terms of you now have an A for the credit and transferring or getting into your program or something like that. But that F is still forever pulling down your GPA, right? So always withdraw. The instructor doesn't withdraw you. Another thing too to keep in mind is if you take a class of the lab, let's say you're taking biology and it has a lab section, you need to make sure you actually withdraw from the lab too. Okay, sometimes they're separate, they're graded separately. So just make sure you do pay attention to all that stuff. Also, here's another little piece of information too, our advice is, let's say we're halfway through the class and just something happens with your work schedule or something's going on and you're falling behind and you're thinking of withdrawing. Come talk to me before you just do it, because we can look at some of the what's left and some of the assignments, and maybe I can give you some advice in terms of well, if you complete such and such, you'll still get a B or you'll still get a C. In other words, maybe I can work with you to stay in the class, especially if you've already paid for it. So keep that in mind. Keep yourself aware of all the deadlines too, of when you have to withdraw by in order to still get credit for the course. And again, if you're at that point where you've already paid for it and we can maybe, and you want to talk to me to see, is there a way for you to still sort of do some of the assignments and pass, or how can you get through this? Talk to me if you think it's worthwhile, because maybe we can figure out a way for you. You've already paid for it, right? Still get credit for the course. So something else I want to pull up here real quick is the schedule. I'm going to show you where this is posted. It's right next to the syllabus, but there's a calendar on Blackboard. But if you look at this schedule here, this shows you every week what we're going to be going through, the different sections. So we start off with general principles and speech anxiety. It tells you what to do. So it says review the PowerPoint video lectures, watch the section videos. Usually have sample speeches or explanatory videos or things in there. And then I go through the readings. Okay. We're not going to read every chapter of the book. We just read some chapters as far as the book goes. And then assignments, anything that's a turn-in assignment is always in bold. So right there, speech of introduction, that's the first turn-in assignment that you do. So that is the schedule. And again, I will give you reminders of all of this as we go through the quarter. Okay, so let's pull up Blackboard, and I have this on student view. So this is how it should look for you as you come into our course. So when you log into Blackboard, you're going to see all your courses. You click on our course right there, and you've got the course introduction, where again, I just sort of introduce myself, remind you that the office hours are every Wednesday from 1 to 2, including this week. This first week, I'll be there. Usually there's a big turnout or higher turnout that first week, so in case some people haven't had a chance to watch this video. And I'm going to go through some of this stuff too that first week as well. for those that again missed the video. So if you scroll down, the way I set this up is everything is just right here in folders on this main page for you to see. So college resources, this folder right here is you're going to click on that and you're going to see links to things like the tutoring center, the student help desk, right? All of these things that can maybe help you. One of the things that Mount Hood does is they do a great job of offering like a lot of free tutoring services and things like that. So hey man, take advantage of it. That's part of what you're paying for as a student here. Great resource to sort of have at the college. So you've got links to all of that sort of stuff here. And then whenever you want to get back, you can just click lessons homepage, right? Or as I screw this up here, right? Let's click lessons homepage. It'll bring you right back to the main page. You scroll down, here's the link, right? And the password for the Zoom office hours on Wednesday. You'll just want to click on that every week if you have questions. Again, those are optional to attend. Syllabus and schedule, click here. All of this is right here. So if you just click on these, it's going to, double tap, it's going to download it for you. So you've got the syllabus, you've got the schedule, and then I will always post the unit we're on and then the next unit. So here you see we're going to start off with general principles and speech anxiety. So and then the next unit is going to be informative speech organization. This also tells you the dates, right, that you're going to want to be working on that. So general principles and speech anxiety, you click on this. So what do we have? This is going to be a typical unit. We've got the PowerPoint here. These are the slides, right, for this section that we cover. And then here are video lectures. So these are me covering those slides, right, having a discussion about them, just like I would do if we were in an on-site course. So you can watch these on your own time. As long as you stay caught up on them to complete the assignments, right, you're going to be good to go. So you've got both of those there, and then including this third part. So it always tells you which part it is, right? Speech anxiety. Once you click on this, it's just going to take you to the video on YouTube where you can close caption if you want, right? And sort of watch the video there. Always go back and watch these other videos. And then over here are some extra videos that you'll want to watch. And again, in my weekly emails, I'll send you reminders, right? This is what you want to go over. In this case, this first section, we're talking about general principles. So basically, we're going to talk about something that you're going to notice I call communicative context, which are elements or variables that are present in any communicative setting that you want to be aware of because you can kind of manipulate to your advantage, right? If you know how to use them. And then, of course, we talk about speech anxiety or fear of public speaking. And so those lectures will cover all that sort of stuff. And then here I've got a link to 2 videos on mental tips and behavioral tips to try to manage speech anxiety. And then you have links to the textbook, right? So again, you just click on those and it's going to open it right up for you. I think my internet's being a little slow today, so it doesn't want to open it for us. All right, there's the first chapter, right? So everything is kind of there for you pretty conveniently in these modules, and you'll just click on each module as it goes. One thing I did not forget that I did not click on for you here. Oh, so textbook. So you just saw that I linked the chapters within each section individually, but if you do want to see the textbook, if you click in here, right, here is also where you can find the full book or all of those chapters as well. Okay, so they're all going to be right there for you. And last thing here, just real quickly, is the assignments folder. There's nothing in here yet because I need to load the first assignment still, but same thing in here. You'll be able to click on the assignment and then upload it if it's a speech outline, right, or upload your video if you've recorded your video. As far as recording your videos, you can obviously use your computer or your Mac or whatever it may be. I believe if you have the Blackboard app, you could even record it on your phone and upload it. My piece of advice to you would be I would consider making sure you don't wait to the last minute to upload your assignments because obviously if there's tech issues, you could miss the deadline. And the one thing I don't accept late is speeches. So make sure you do this early on. And I will also post a video showing you how to upload speeches once they're recorded. But again, I believe you can do so on your phone as well if you have the Blackboard app. So I hope this helps kind of introduce the course for you and sort of helps you sort of understand where to access everything. One other thing I forgot to mention here is on the lessons homepage. I haven't set it up yet, so you don't quite see it yet. But over here on the side, you're going to see a column that'll say grades or my grades, and you can click on that and you'll be able to see your course percentage and your scores for the class. All right. Well, again, if you have any questions about how to access the materials of the course, remember to check my weekly announcements, including this first week. You'll see that email letting you know kind of what you need to work on. You can always email me, message me on Blackboard, or check in for those Wednesday sessions. I look forward to working with all of you this quarter. Last thing that I did forget to mention was, so in terms of the video lectures, it is important that you, in order to do well in the class, in terms of the assignments as well as in terms of the exams in particular, it is important that you are looking at you're digesting all of the material. So in other words, for example, I do not just regurgitate the reading. So the PowerPoints, let's say we're talking about a topic, like let's say we're talking about audience analysis. The textbook might talk about things 1, 2, and 3 of audience analysis, but my PowerPoints and lecture might talk about things 4, 5, and 6. So in other words, it's the same topic, but it's not the same aspects. So you cannot get away with just skimming the book, but not looking at the PowerPoints or listening to the lectures. You will fail. You'll definitely fail the exams. Second thing, you can't just skim the PowerPoints and not listen to the lectures. Okay, not listen to those discussions, because I talk about a lot of things when I cover those and give you a lot of examples that I might bring up later on the exam, right? Or that you'll need to understand to do well in the speeches. So make sure to do well in this course that you're digesting everything, you're going through everything. You've got to look at the PowerPoints, you've got to listen to watch those video lectures, right? And you got to check out the textbook. Okay, so you got to make sure you're doing all three. I would say that I lean to where about 70% to what you need to know to do well in the class is going to be from the video lectures and the PowerPoints, and about 30% the reading. Okay, because again, we don't read every chapter, but I do want to emphasize, and I'll certainly remind you guys of this in my announcements, that you have to cover everything, right? You can't just sort of just rely on one and skim on some of the other parts and hope and think that you'll do well. So I hope that this helps introduce the course. Again, I'm very excited to have you guys all in here. I always look forward to teaching this class. I've been doing it a long time. I think you're going to find that even if you don't do speeches, whatever career you're going into, I think you're going to find that we're going to talk about a lot of things in here that are going to be really valuable for you in terms of communication, even if you're not giving speeches. Because here's the thing. A lot of the dynamics we're going to talk about, do they make you a better public speaker? Sure, they do. But they work well in all kinds of settings, right? So when we talk about nonverbals, dynamics of nonverbal communication, the things that make somebody come across as friendly and honest and trustworthy that work in a speech, guess what? They work in a job interview. They work one-on-one, right? Aspects of persuasion, they work in a speech, but they work one-on-one too. So you're going to see that a lot of this stuff applies to other settings, and I do try to emphasize that with my examples, the other settings besides public speaking that you can use this stuff, not just public speaking. Okay, so I think it's going to really help you and be valuable for you. So we're going to talk about all these other settings, whether it's for personal or professional settings. All right, so welcome to the class. Let me know if you have any questions, and again, I look forward to working with all of you.